You're on.
Good morning.
Good morning.
To Unity of Springfield Adult Education, and welcome to the live stream, folks. I'll try not to forget you are here. So my name is John Braucher, and today we're going to be talking about breathing. I had some highfalutin topic on the weekly email, but that was kind of tongue in cheek. It's really pretty simple, and we're going to really talk about some kind of basics, so that because I think it's really important to do all kinds of fascinating things with breathing, but it's important to kind of have a frame of reference and a base from where one starts with it. First of all, intentional breathing techniques can alter physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual states when practiced. And in fact, that's probably the reason why people practice them. And yet, like anything else, it can have unintended consequences. And so, although they may be helpful for some people, you might have some stuck memories come loosed up, some emotions that you didn't really realize that you had. You could have a health problem that you didn't really realize that you had, like arrhythmias or other things can just jump out in the midst of doing. So it is a good idea to share with your healthcare provider if you're starting to do something much different, especially when you first start beginning. And I think it's important to kind of just look at yourself. Like, why are you doing it? What's your motivation? What's going on? And I think it's also not a bad idea, especially initially, is to practice in groups. It doesn't have to be a large group, but even a small group or just another person, partner, to practice breathing with can be of assistance if you find yourself having an unexpected reaction, to just have another person there to help provide support. Can you hear?
I can hear you fine.
Okay.
She didn't hear me.
Good news and bad news. Okay. So, what does breathing mean to you guys?
Life.
Life? Okay.
What did you say?
What does breathing mean to you?
Life. You say life?
It's life.
Yeah.
So it's kind of important. We've been doing it our whole life. We don't stop till we croak. So that's it's right next to us. My second question is, who are you? Or better, what do you tell yourself when you ask yourself, who am I?
I'm a spiritual being.
You're a spiritual being, okay.
In human form.
In human form, okay. Yeah.
I'm an individualized expression of God.
All right.
Hey, y'all, I got the microphone.
So the folks on live stream can hear us. So yeah, go away, Pat. For Jerry.
Right?
Yes, I'm getting it. Okay, there you go, Pat.
Hey, thanks.
Jeez. Just say it.
Hi, I was a teacher and I love helping people.
Mm-hmm.
That's who I am.
Okay.
Still.
Okay.
Still.
Okay.
I guess it depends when you ask me, because sometimes I'm a really evolved spiritual being, and sometimes I'm just a mess. So, and a lot of things.
You sound so normal. So, and the reason why I asked that question is that we have a story to tell about who we are. There's this conversation, there's this description that comes in the form of thoughts that describe who we say we are. It's our sense of who we are. And it comes typically in the form of words, although sometimes it's colored by emotion and by what we sense with our 5 or 6 senses, or 7 or 8 or 9 senses. And there's a link between breathing and thinking. Wendy and I were talking about this a little bit before class, that classical conditioning exists. So how we breathe is associated often with memories, thinking. Like 95% of our thinking is habit thinking. It's just repeated over and over and over again. The story that we tell ourselves about what it is that we're experiencing over and over and over again. Sometimes with some slight variations depending on what the current environment presents to us. But mostly it's very, very similar and very repetitive. So the other 5% is co-creation, where we're intentionally thinking and going somewhere, and trying to explore and create. Maybe artistically, maybe by helping people, maybe through many different activities, but there's a difference between this rote autopilot thinking and creative, co-creative thinking. And I say, go ahead.
For me, it's important that I remember that whether I'm doing it deliberately or not, I'm still utilizing the same process. I'm still creating. Because then it always feels like when I'm not deliberately creating, then I'm lesser than, or I'm not a powerful creator. But I'm just as powerful and just as worthy in everything when I'm doing it rote or doing it what people would consider wrong, or creating what I don't want.
Good point. Good point. And one of the reasons to intentionally co-create is because then that becomes rote. Whatever it is that we practice eventually will become rote if we practice it enough time. Yes. And then
I kind of look at it as a hard drive and a soft, and your software. The hard drive is God, what we used to, or the energy we used to move around with. And the software is this continuous loop that we deal with all the time. But the software is changing.
correct. And you can expand your RAM, to use your example. So emotions come in at the point like, is what I'm thinking and experiencing and describing, is this joyful? Is this very painful? Is this anxiety provoking? Is this scary? Does it piss me off? What's my response to it, and how does that guide me in terms of what I choose to think? Okay, and as I was saying, that this thing with classical conditioning, so what do we get classical conditioning to? What's classical conditioning? what's classical conditioning? Okay, Jeff.
I personally, this is just me, I personally believe it's the definitions where we're spoon-fed when we were kids.
Well, it is learning by association. So Pavlov's dog, where he fed the dog and he measured the salivary response by the dog when he fed the dog. And he would just present the food, and then when he did that, he would ring a bell. He'd ring the bell, present the food, the dog would salivate in response to the food because he was hungry. Then he didn't present the food, but he just rang the bell, and the dog still salivated. So that bell was classically conditioned to the presentation of the food. And so the bell then created the salivation. That was a example of classical conditioning. Well, and we're all subject to that kind of conditioning, whether we like it or not. And it does occur while we're growing up. I mean, we're early on, you know, we've learned that we don't like the word "no" that much because, you know, we learned it early and often, and so breathing though is something that's been with us our entire life. So there's a classical conditioning that has occurred with almost any really intense moment in our life was associated with a certain type of breathing. And there's certain types of breathing that have to do with survival, and there's certain types of breathing that have to do with calmness, with sleeping, with restoration. In yoga, where I really started to get into the pranayama practice, was I was in a yoga class and they said, yeah, stick your knee right up underneath your chest and then lay down. I go, what? You're nuts. I can't do that. That would hurt. It'll break my knee. There's no way. And they go, well, wait. We'll show you how you do this. And it took a while. I wasn't able to do it the first day that I tried it. But I had to breathe into it. And there was a certain kind of a breath technique that was just, and I had to just kind of lay there. In yin yoga, it's my favorite kind of yoga because it gives you all the time you need to get where you want to go. And there's no rush, no hurry. Just lay into it. And you use lots of pillows and blocks and things to help you, and blankets that you can use as props to help you get there. And you don't have, and you're always doing it right. And you just breathe into it. And with every exhale, you get a little closer. And you inhale, come up, and then the exhale, you get a little closer. And it works. So for me, breathing is one, it's attached to our thinking by classical conditioning. So if you notice what it is you're thinking and then notice how you're breathing, and you do that very often, and if you notice when you're thinking something that's a little different, and then you notice you're breathing, you can notice some different changes. If you're excited about something, if the Chiefs just scored a touchdown, your breathing is much different than if you just finished the big dessert. And there's just going to be, and your thinking will be different. And you can use this in terms of intentionality. So these are kind of some of the reasons why I think that the breathing's important. The first breath skill that I'm going to talk about is diaphragmatic breathing with an emphasis on exhale. So what's diaphragmatic breathing? Can you bring the speaker to me here?
I would guess that it would be with the intention of moving your diaphragm during the breath rather than poking your stomach out or in. The diaphragm is moving when you breathe and being conscious of that. It sounds to me like.
Okay, that's a pretty good description. And the diaphragm is actually the muscle right along the bottom of the rib. And it helps to move our guts out of the way so that our lungs can fully expand. And the way that I teach the diaphragmatic breathing, actually your stomach does move. Because you don't want to move up here and you don't want to move up here. You don't want to move your chest and you don't want to move your shoulders. Now, and this doesn't mean this is the right way to breathe all the time. And in a yoga breath, the 3-part yoga breath, which is one of the types that I put on the handout, is you start off with diaphragmatic, the low, belly comes out. The second third of the breath is you expand through the chest, and the third is you come up at the upper chest and shoulders. And then the exhale, you go backwards, down the shoulders, chest in, and then come back into the belly. The reason why I taught this particular breathing skill to literally thousands of people while I was working as a therapist. And the reason is that a lot of people with high anxiety just are not comfortable doing that and can't do it, and so they hyperventilate, which leads to the high anxiety. And so basically the breath technique is just when you inhale, your belly comes out a little bit. But your chest doesn't. Just your belly. A little bit. Exhale. Back in. And then I ask people to have their exhale be the breath is split up into 2 halves. The inhale hold and the exhale hold. And I ask that by any amount, the exhale hold is slightly longer than the inhale hold, so that you're slightly hypoventilating. Not by enough that you should even feel the difference.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There's an ancient Chinese saying that the common man breathes from his abdomen and the wise man breathes from the soles of his feet. And what that means is that you breathe internally that has such a way that impacts your entire body's rhythm, is such as you're not stuck within just the upper half of your body, which is your abdomen. You make it a whole body activity with the idea of breathing from the soles of your feet. When you can meditate and have that as a concept over time, you're not just seeing this as just something from the waist up. You're beginning to believe and see that as a holistic standpoint that affects your whole body. It's one of the reasons why your feet play such a vital role in your health. As and Anyway, I could go on, but anyway, the main point I wanted to make is the idea of beyond the abdomen, beyond just simply thinking of breathing, which is central to who we are.
But this is where we're going to start. We're going to start with the abdomen, and the reason is, again, because it's a problem for so many people. It's an area of non-awareness, and I, there's millions of places we can go with breathing, and even in the handout, there's quite a few different ones, and I agree. I mean, you can breathe from below your feet, 6 feet below you, to several feet above in the breathing, in our range of vibrations that's a part of where we are. But I wanted to start just with keeping it simple. I'd like you to join, any of you that feel comfortable doing so, to just spend a little bit of time just diaphragmatically breathing. Just notice, try to use your nose, breathe through your nose if you're scientifically clear. And notice that the exhale is slightly longer than the inhale. You shouldn't do it so much that you're gasping for the next inhale. It should be very comfortable, very calm. And all that's important is your own awareness. Okay. What do you notice when you do that?
I notice that I become very calm, and my thoughts slow down. Everything takes on a different perspective.
Sure.
You see, mine's just the opposite. I just feel really pissed off. And the words I hear in my head are, "You are not the boss of me."
We knew that to start with.
I love you, Woody.
I'm a writer. I love to write. I write every day, not just a journal, but on my foundation website and all that kind of stuff. But I find that breathing slows down a rhythm in such a way that I can focus. Focusing creates an environment that allows new thoughts and things I always knew but have forgotten to come forward. And I find that breathing helps to unleash or make that possible, because it clears my mind and helps me to slow down, as he was saying. And that is really critical, because there's all kinds of thoughts floating around all the time. And it's what ends up on the page or on the paper that really is important to me. And as that from there, I go somewhere else. But it starts with being able to breathe.
I feel like it forces you to, or almost forces you to be present, to be in the here, where you're at, and yeah, now.
Couldn't quite hear you.
He said it forced him to be in the here and the now, in the present moment. Maybe.
Very relaxing. It just allows me to just let go of all the tension as I'm letting go of the exhale.
Okay, so and that's going to be somewhat different for different people in their experiences. Folks who have had the classical conditioning that being too relaxed can be dangerous, can have the very opposite effect that a number of the people here described today. And so Wendy talked about that if there's a different reaction, if you're trying to push me into a situation that is unsafe, then that can be different. Okay, now, again, there are so many different ways of doing breathing. I like to start with just the basic, with that diaphragmatic. A second one that I think is helpful is a form of what sometimes is called box breathing. It's also called resonant breathing or coherent breathing. And it's generally considered a healthy way of breathing, and it can give you, again, the awareness of I can make this kind of my normal way of breathing, a calm sense of where I can focus, concentrate, and essentially it's, and you can change it based on what works for you, because everybody is in a different health state. Our lungs are all in different states of condition depending on our age and what we've done to abuse them over the years or not. And our health status. But a standard is 5.5 second inhale, 5.5 second hold, 5.5 second exhale. And then that 5.5 seconds, just rotation. Or even a 5.5 second inhale and 5 second exhale. It's done so many. Go ahead.
I was going to say that
Usually with a box, you have the 5 at the top and the bottom of just a rest.
Mm-hmm. And in different people there's so many different variations. And you should play around with it a little bit to find your comfort zone. But somewhere in this 5, 6 seconds, it's a nice slow. It's not a high activity one. But go ahead and choose a certain number of seconds that's comfortable to you to inhale. Take a comfortable pause, and then the same amount of time on the exhale as you did on the inhale. A comfortable pause, and then the inhale. And this is a good kind of a breath that once you establish it, you don't have to think about it. It can become part of your just automatic responses. Try this for just about a minute. Now the question is of intention, and it's going to be different for everybody. But again, back to this whole idea about classical conditioning, you can choose to have an intention paired with a type of breathing. So you could take just this very simple 5x5 breathing technique and choose to make it, okay, I'm going to write, or I'm going to just go into the nothingness and let go. Or I'm going to get something done. Or whatever it is. Or I'm going to calm down. Or I'm going to take no prisoners. And I'm going to go into negotiation. Whatever it is. But pick, if you pick something, you can pair it to a certain type of breathing, and then.
When I traveled around China for about 20 years, I went to a number of Buddhist monasteries and also Taoist as well. And when they would have a precept or a beginning monk, you might say, who was just in the process of learning to breathe, they would try to make it as easy as possible, because if it was hard, they would go home. So if they could have people ease into meditation, ease into a certain way of thinking, and let their breath represent that in such a way that was easy for them. As you said earlier with what you were saying with your what you were talking about, is it because it's the fear of not being able to go where you think you need to go that is limiting for a lot of folks. So what happens is if it's hard, they choose not to try to go there. But I always found in talking to folks who've been doing this for a long time, that particularly in China and some of these different monasteries and what they know, was that the easier they could make it for people, if all they want to do is learn how to meditate, the easier they could ease into what they wanted to do or who they wanted to become, it was something they would follow. But if it was something that I can't do that, then they would go home. So I think you're right in what you're saying.
And that makes sense. It makes sense.
Before you go on,
Go ahead.
I don't know if this is a proper time to bring this up. But I've been experimenting occasionally with the extremes of breathing. Mm-hmm. And I've been able to start with 3 breaths per minute and go down to 2 breaths per minute by holding the inhale for maybe 6 to 8 seconds. Is this destructive or constructive exercise?
Well, you tell me.
I feel it's a, it gives me a sense of being able to control my body
Mhm.
to that extent. And but is there any value?
It is increasing your VO2 max. Okay, so you're increasing your capacity to absorb oxygen into your blood cell, and you're also training your diaphragm to be able to do that practice. So there is some value to it for your lungs to be able to transfer more oxygen while you're breathing.
I just wanted to comment. I've read about and watched some programming on some sea divers, especially those who live in cold climates, who are diving into temperatures that we never thought possible, and staying underwater for a number of minutes beyond what we ever thought possible. And good or bad, I just think it's incredible to see what our human ability can be, I guess I'd say. And I think it's pretty admirable that you're experimenting with that.
Jared?
Hey, that's okay. Keeps my legs moving.
I have a sleep disorder and I wear a CPAP. And occasionally, if I take a nap, which I don't, I of course don't wear the CPAP. And even yesterday, I violently woke up. My body woke me up because with noise, it'll really kick in when you can't breathe. It's amazing what our bodies will do to help us, but it's a frightening experience, and it's not good.
And there's a lot of different examples. In fact, as I was preparing for this, I was scrolling through a lot of different techniques, and one of them, which I didn't put in the outline or anything, but it had to do with, you go ahead and you take a full inhale and you complete your exhale, and then you hold your hose.
At the exhale.
After the exhale.
Don't fall.
And you wait for your body to go, hey, I need some O2 here, buddy. and it's an auxiliary. It gets your heart rate up a little bit, and it'll wake you up. For some people, it may be relaxing and calming. But it also, when one practices something like that, and again, this is something I say, check with your healthcare provider before doing things like this, because if a person has an unknown arrhythmia or something, stuff can happen when you're pushing yourself to the limits. Both good stuff and unintended consequences. So I just want to have that cautionary information out there, because I don't want anybody to have anything untoward occur. And I could have gone longer, but I didn't want to have my face get all red. But you can, you can go ahead and you can push these things and some people describe that particular type is what it allowed them to do was to endure, and it's a Navy SEALs practice that they do, so that when they're under duress, they can stay chill and calm, and collected, and keep rational thinking on board so they can make the right decision that they need to make in those situations. So yeah, push in the envelope kind of a thing is a very interesting and kind of a fun thing to do. On the handout, one of the things on the end I have is the breath of joy. And this one you can do sitting down, but you'll want to push away from the table. Or you can do it standing up. The reason why is because it's basically it has a 3-part inhale. And then exhale. And then inhale. And it just goes on like this, just shoulder height, over the head. And these are all 3 parts of one single inhale. And then the exhale, there's a swoosh, a swooshing sound. Yeah.
I found that Tai Chi will give you the same type of response. If you anything that combines the movements with your breath in such a way that it brings an awareness to both your breathing and your movements at the same time, which is basically what you were doing. Yeah. But I always found years ago that Tai Chi was basically another way of doing that.
Yes.
And a lot of the things that I've read about early Tai Chi, it was all about your breathing. It was all about the movements were tied to your breathing in such a way that the movements force your breathing over time of following a certain pattern or rhythm. And when you learn how to do that, then the movements guided your breath, and the breath guided the movements. I always found that very interesting how they did that.
And I think that's part of that classical conditioning where you associate the movement with the breath and the breath with the movement. I know in yoga, it's the same way. There's anything that's expansive is an inhale, and anything that's contraction is an exhale. And that's just the way that it's designed. And I'm sure that Tai Chi is very similar in that most of the times, although every once in a while, all of these different teachings will throw you a curve or something. But that's but I think but that's a general. And then I think we were talking earlier about the breath of fire, Strika, and that's a breath that now in most of these you want to breathe in through your nostrils. And in this book by James Nestor, Breath, which I did the earlier breathing breath talk that I did, was based on, he's a journalist who just researched breathing for 10 years. And he just, and he called them, they called themselves pulmonauts. And they were just exploring and trying different things. And the two things that he really said that big takeaways is it's much healthier to breathe through your nose if you can. Both for sleeping, that's one of the problems with folks that have to wear CPAPs is their mouth breathers. And it gets caught in there. The other was chewing. That the act of doing some kind of hard chewing changes the musculature in the back of our throat and changes the way we breathe. And this has already occurred evolutionarily, that our jaws are less strong and it shifted the relationship between the alluvial opening that closes the trachea and the musculature. And that one of the really things that helps is chewing something rather forcefully. So fresh vegetables, like carrots and celery. Yes, there's some chewing gums that are a little more firm than others. I found some at Mama Jean's that were, and it wasn't the best tasting gum that I've ever tasted, but it was firm.
Bubblegum's like that.
Yes, sometimes bubblegum can be that way. And, but obviously chewing meat, depends if you're a meat eater or not. And although, everybody, what's considered good meat is tender. And we've tenderized our diet in modern history, especially Western history, and which has led to more breathing. But the big takeaway is really a focus on sinus breathing through the nose. Even when I exercise, and when I'm doing yoga or doing even aerobic exercise, I try to stay nose breathing as long as I can. There sometimes is a point where I just can't. I have to take some inhale breaths. And then also there's nothing wrong with a mouth exhale. What's that? A sigh. Yeah. So what's a sigh?
Release.
Relief. Yeah. A release and a relief.
We said, well,
Like, when do we sometimes sigh?
Disappointment.
Sometimes it's a disappointment. Sometimes it's a sadness. Sometimes it's a resolving. This isn't going to happen. Or sometimes it's there can be all different flavors of emotion associated with it. But it's kind of a release. It's, something a little cute little kid, whatever. Oh. And those are awesome.
After the Bears win the football game.
No, that's a different kind of breathing altogether again. It's more closely related to hyperventilation and excitement. And it may not happen this year, but we're hopeful. So, There's one other one that I really enjoy. I started learning it when I was in teacher training for yoga class back in 2019, 2020. And that's a Ujjayi breathing, Ujjayi, Ujjayi. And that is breathing in through the nose. And you slightly constrict your throat so that you can hear. Doesn't have to be a deep breath. I'm overemphasizing it. It's sometimes called Darth Vader breathing, or the breath of the ocean. And for me, it gives more of a sense of control of the breath. And it gives a feedback loop to me about how much I'm breathing, how intensely I'm breathing. And also when I'm doing yoga, one of the struggles with doing yoga is, oh my gosh, I can't do this. It's the chatter in the brain. Oh no, I'm gonna fall. Oh, this is gonna. And I found that the Ujjayi can be like white noise and deflect off some of the self-talk that might be occurring whenever it is that you're involved, whether it be Tai Chi or yoga or some other kind of physical movement associated with breathing, even exercise. So that's just another something that now the tips for the Ujjayi is don't go overboard with the creating of the sound. You don't need to huff and puff. You want it to be something that's sustainable, comfortable for you. And timing of it is important. It's a good thing to do when you first wake up, before bed, when you're meditating or practicing yoga. But right after eating might not be the best time to do the constricted throat, because that really can affect the digestive process and start rumbling, your tummy rumbling, stuff like that, if you practice that thing. Some of the benefits of it is that the impact on the vagus nerve can positively influence digestion overall. And the vagus nerve, when it's activated, lets us relax. It actually doesn't give you a choice. You just relax. Which is the other reason for the diaphragmatic breathing exercise. They're using the belly breathing, which Wendy didn't like because it was telling her body to relax, to calm, and she didn't want it. And because it really is involuntary. When you activate the vagus nerve, you want to relax. And the diaphragm, when you're pushing your belly down and out, you're pressing down on the vagus nerve, lower abdomen. And the Ujjayi kind of increases that a little bit. I stayed away from some of the breath of fire stuff, really because, I mean, people can get into that and could be a part of the person's journey as long as you're feeling comfortable. I just didn't want to push out something that might be harmful to someone, and that they're not ready to. But enjoy, use it. Does anybody have any habit that they would like to start? I know it's a little early for New Year's resolution, but does anybody have any kind of a?
Yeah, I would like to, I would like to be able to have a breath that would be an automatic, unchanging thing, except for perhaps exercise, where I breathe the same all the time without thinking about it, unless some physical thing requires more breath.
Mhm.
So how do you do that?
Well, first I would listen to how you're breathing and keep track, because you may already be there, Don. I mean, I don't know. You might already be there because you have trained yourself to be healthy for a long time, but that would be, an interesting thing just to kind of check out to see what is the variability in your breathing. And I don't know if, for instance, you would want your breathing to be the same, or if it would be the same if you're doing something like gardening or watching TV. It might be different doing something like that, or reading and meditating might be different, and or writing poetry might be different. That'd be something I'd be curious to look at, to kind of check it out and see. I mean, there might be a reason for some slight changes in breathing, for different activities and different things in everyday life. And you might find that there's some that get in the way. Like you might even monitor, like, what's my breathing like when I feel like I have writer's cramp, versus how am I breathing when it just flows? Is there a difference?
To be more spontaneous within my thoughts of my highest endeavor. I think that's really a critical aspect of who we are yet to become, and that spontaneity. And that's one of the things your breath can help you to achieve, I think, is that it allows you to see beyond yourself and not be stuck in a certain pattern or way that may not contribute to what that may be. And I think that's why breathing becomes so essential. Beyond the present, beyond who you think you are, to who you still are becoming.
Thank you. On that note, we're going to move on to the announcements. Come share in the stillness this evening. Every Sunday evening at 6 p.m., join our group meditation out there in the meditation garden, or out in the sanctuary. The couple times I was there, it was in the meditation garden. It was so nice. Yeah. It's been a while. The monthly board meeting is tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. All are welcome to join about 6:20 because they do their checking first. The Unity book group, open to all, begins at 10 a.m. every Tuesday. This week, they will be starting the book Divine Alignment by Squire Rushnell. And I heard they don't really like to talk. No, you get some social involvement too. I think it's a really cool place to get to know people. Navigating Grief Group meets the second and fourth Tuesdays each month. The next meeting is this Tuesday at 6 p.m. Anyone experiencing any type of grief or just as interested in grief or have an ongoing grief is welcome to attend. So I'll be there. Amy Burnett and Dee Richardson would like to invite you to Sacred Abundance. It's a 6-week class in small groups based on the book by Robin Ryder. Beginning this Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m., we'll meet here at the church for an instructor-led lesson and then break out into small groups to dive deeper into each chapter. The author of the book, Robin Ryder, asks, are you ready to experience vibrant health, profound love, limitless prosperity, and overflowing joy? If your answer is yes, please sign up at the connection table in the foyer so we can print enough study guides for everyone. You can order the book from Amazon. And our fall fashion boutique is this Friday and Saturday. Come shop and refresh your wardrobe for the season. We're accepting donations until Thursday of gently used women's fall clothing. All items should be clean, in good condition, and ready for someone else to love. Our last community music outdoor concert is this Saturday at 7 p.m. This is a free event and is open to the community. Bring a chair and a friend and come enjoy these amazing local artists. There'll be hot dogs, chips, and soda available to purchase. That's a fun way to spend the evening. We are delighted to welcome Sue Baggett Day as our guest speaker next Sunday. Sue was the spiritual leader right here at Unity of Springfield for 19 years, and preceding that, she was the administrator here for 11 years. She began attending Unity of Springfield in the March of 1988 and never looked back. This is her church home. She is enjoying retirement with her husband, Paul, who is a valued member here. So Sue said she is excited to see everyone next Sunday.
Yay.
Our Youth of Unity are hosting a pancake breakfast fundraiser on September 28th, beginning at 9 a.m. Come and enjoy a delicious hot breakfast before the service. They're accepting food donations for the breakfast, and all the money will go towards the cost of winter rally. And that same week, the 28th, right after the service, we'll gather at Phelps Grove Park for a community potluck picnic. Bring a dish to share and enjoy good fellowship, fun, and together in the park. Please sign up at the connection table. Next Sunday, there will not be the adult education class due to the pancake breakfast. From November to March, when overnight temperatures are below freezing, our church opens this room here as a crisis cold weather shelter. During September and October, we do a 8-item in 8 weeks donation drive to collect the most used shelter items. These lists are on the connection table in the foyer. And then for this coming week is creamer and sugar. If you're wondering what volunteering in our shelter is all about, we'll have a volunteer meeting on September 25th at 6 p.m. and one on October 4th at 10 a.m. Choose the date that works best for you and come learn all the details. It's a really wonderful experience to volunteer for cold weather shelter. On October 1st, we'll take our first we'll be taking our annual trip to Unity Village. Please sign up at the connection table in the foyer if you plan to go. We will carpool from the church parking lot. If you're riding with someone, please share in the cost of gas for the trip. We'll arrive in the village at 10 a.m. and our tour will conclude by 1 p.m. After that, you'll be free to roam the grounds. You can either bring your lunch or get something from the Fillmore Cafe. It's always a wonderful time, and we hope you can join us. Save the dates, and more will be coming soon. Reverend Diana Kennedy will be facilitating her Get Ready to Thrive workshop on October 18th and will be our guest speaker on Sunday. And we will have a new member orientation on October 19th and ceremony on October 26th. Please see the office if you'd like an application. And we'll meet in the back.
Thank you, John.